Okay, people. Hi, Monique. Hi. So I put a post up this morning. This is Dr. Sharon. I put a post up this morning on heart disease, and I've gotten literally, since putting the post up, probably about 8 questions on what your cholesterol should be. So I'm in Uber on my way to the airport, praying to make this flight, this quick in and out, and decided, hi, Paul, to come on Facebook Live, which is, so I'm moving and hope I make this flight. Y'all pray for a sister. Got a lot of questions. Heart health, heart disease remains the leading cause of death for everyone worldwide. Leading cause of death. And so while it's great for us to always talk about the cancers, and you all know I do a lot of work with the American Cancer Society. We'll be doing some work with them later on this week. Heart disease is actually the reason why most of us will leave this world. I have been in meetings, and if this is you, I'm not throwing shade at all. It's about education, where people have said, well, I don't have heart disease, I have high blood pressure. High blood pressure is related to heart disease. So when we talk about heart disease, we talk about anything related to the heart. Most of the time, when we talk about heart disease, we're talking about having a heart attack, having some clogged arteries, high blood pressure, even stroke in some instances is related to plaques in the heart that break loose and go to the brain, etc. So it really is important for us to keep our heart in check. Other things like a murmur. Many of us have a low-grade murmur. Well, if you're anemic, you may have a low-grade murmur. A murmur is simply, the heart is lub-dub, lub-dub. That's the sound that your heart makes. When the doctor puts the stethoscope here, they hear lub-dub, lub-dub. A murmur is lub-dub, whoo, lub-dub, whoo. It's a little bitty extra sound. If you have what's called low flow or anemia, you often will have, hey X, you often will have another beat. And you can have things called AFib, where your heart doesn't beat in the lub-dub fashion, or it's irregular. Now, when you see people grab their chest, fall out with sudden heart death, they have gone into what we call a fatal rhythm. And that's why it looks so dramatic on TV. If they grab their chest, fall out, and someone gets on the chest and pounds the chest, that your heart is electrical. So the electricity in the heart is gone off. But that's not really what we're talking about. That's something that, you can get VTAC, and that's bye-bye. I mean, I'm just saying, that's, unless we can shock you, but I'll do another whole piece on that. Hey X, I'm Paul and Sherelle. So now, and I've got a lot of questions. They look at my post. I talked about heart disease and what you can do. Let me tell you what your number should be, because and we need to be real about it. Your blood pressure should be less than, everybody say less than 120/80. One of the things that happens, particularly in minority populations, are physician assistants, nurses will say, oh, you're 130/90, that's good for you. I want to be at goal. My goal is less than 120/80. I talk about this all the time. And the other part is, if you have high blood pressure, please invest in a blood pressure cuff. Go to CVS today. You should have one in your house anyway. Period. Get a blood pressure cuff, a monitor, whether it's the wrist. I actually don't particularly like the wrist as much as I like the ones that go on the arm, so that you can get your blood pressure checked. Prevention, and knowing your numbers. It is not good enough to go to the doctor once or twice a year and get a blood pressure check, and that's it. Okay, so that's a sidebar. So hypertension, also known as high blood pressure, your blood pressure should be less than 120/80, and that's what you should work for. How do you get those numbers down? Naturally. Naturally, number one, salt is your enemy. And hey, Brian, salt is your enemy. Hi, homegirl Terry, salt is your enemy. If you are African American, salt is really your enemy. There is something genetic. When we take a teaspoon of salt versus our white brothers and sisters, we react more negatively. Our blood pressure shoots up. It's thought to be genetic. It's thought that we have had all of the salt and the preservatives from way back 200 years ago in slavery, etc. The bottom line is we have an unusual response to high salt diets. But then soul food is high salt. See how we're killing each other? Killing ourselves. Hi, Carol. So 1 teaspoon of salt in me as an African American woman versus my soul sister, Caucasian sister, Linda, who I need to call Linda Barrett, is going to react differently. So we have to be very diligent in decreasing the salt. That also means you think I don't have a salt shaker. No. If you eat a hamburger will have several tablespoons of salt in it. So you go to McDonald's, you get a hamburger, you get chicken McNuggets, you get the fries. That is pure salt. So you really have to watch that. Even salad dressings, some salad dressings actually have high salt content. So you have to make sure that you are really watching your salt content, especially if you've been diagnosed with hypertension or you have a family history of hypertension that you're trying to make sure you don't get. Now, other things are at the table, salt is your enemy. I say that there should never be salt anywhere on anybody's table, period. You should not be adding salt. And people say, well, I don't use salt, but I use Old Bay. Look at the bottle. The first ingredient in Old Bay is salt. Salt tastes good. It enhances the flavor of food. That's why we like it. If you are going to use salt, go with the kosher salt and use that sparingly, or sea salt, use that sparingly. But natural herbs and spices actually will help flavor food. So we talked about the salt. Less than 120/80. Now, heart disease, what I've gotten many questions today about after I posted about getting your cholesterol low. Your cholesterol, total cholesterol. So you basically get 3 numbers. That's what I'm going to deal with. Your total cholesterol should be less than 200. I actually say your goal should be less than 160, 170. Because at 201, you're now borderline. So why get close to 200 and say, oh, I'm good because I'm 199? No. Why not shoot for 170? That's your total cholesterol. Cholesterol is fat. If you think about a piece of beef and a wonderful ribeye, and you see the white marbling, and that's what cholesterol is. Cholesterol is basically fat. So you want to make sure that and you don't want that in your blood vessels. Okay, so total cholesterol should be less than 200. I say shoot for less than 175. Your bad cholesterol, which is the cholesterol that clogs the arteries, you have to have cholesterol. Cholesterol makes skin, cholesterol makes organs, all of that. So you have to have cholesterol or you dead. And if your cholesterol goes too low, actually that is a sign of malnutrition. Sidebar. So total cholesterol less than 200. We're going to shoot for less than 170. Your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, that is the cholesterol that clogs your arteries. That should be less than 100. Hi, Sheila Brooks. That should be less than 100. Hi, Sardana. And again, instead of shooting for 100, say that bad cholesterol should be less than 70, 75. For me personally, I feel defeated if my bad cholesterol is around 90. Fortunately, my bad cholesterol is usually around 60, 70. And then HDL, which is high density lipoprotein. I got to say that so y'all know I am an MD. HDL, you want the HDL, high density lipoprotein, to be high. That protects the heart. Like I said, you have to have cholesterol. HDL, you want that. We used to say greater than 50. Now we really say greater than 60. My goal is to try to push HDL, because if it's going to protect me, I'm going to try to get that 70 to 80. So total cholesterol, you want less than 200. Let's go for 170. Your bad cholesterol, which is low density lipoprotein, the LDL, you want less than 80 and less than 75, whatever. And then your HDL, you want that to be above 50, 60. So let's shoot for 70. Those are good parameters. You also need to open your mouth and ask your family, has anybody died of a heart attack? Does anybody have heart disease? Anybody had to have bypass surgery where we had to take arteries out of the leg and put it in the heart and whatever? Because the family history is what I do. I did something. family history. I'm in Uber on my way to the airport. I don't think I'm gonna make this flight. There's gonna be a problem. But a family history is very important. And let me tell you this. We talk a lot about family history, and I give a shout out to all the people from North Carolina, my homies. Y'all know I'm a North Carolina girl, transplanted in Maryland, still love to cook North Carolina food. Grandma may have died of a heart attack or may have heart disease and high cholesterol. That's not necessarily genetic. You now may have heart disease, high cholesterol. It's not necessarily genetics, i.e. the genes in your DNA. It often is that grandma taught you how to make some great fried chicken. She taught you how to put ham hocks in the collard greens. Let me get out the sun. All right. And so you think it's genetic. No. It is that you have been taught how to eat and how to season food, etc. And so in some generation, we have to do something different. I love cooking with my nieces. For my nieces, one of the things that Auntie Sharon is teaching them is to cut up a lot of onions and mixed onions and all that in her greens. Yeah, we're going to put a little bit of ham or turkey in it, mostly turkey and stock. But how are we going to season better so that they're not going to have the issue of high cholesterol, etc.? And so let's now do these family traditions versus other things. And there is not anything wrong with pork. Pork is the other white meat. Unless you are having pickled pig feet that's set in salt for 10 years. I mean, let's just be realistic. You know what eating right is and all of that. And if you have high blood pressure, you really do need to back away. Go back to your less processed meat, and lots of fish. The other thing that I got a question on today with my heart health post is aspirin. Should I be taking aspirin? That is a discussion for you and your physician. Hi, Kim. Hi, cousin. You and your physician. But at a certain age, a baby aspirin a day will be very important for you. So do have that discussion. The other part is, and I'm going to do a whole series on what should be in your medicine cabinet, but I'm going to tell you now, please have some non-coated aspirin. Go get a big bottle of non-coated aspirin and put that in your medicine cabinet, because God forbid someone does have a heart attack. You actually, often 911 will say, give them 2 aspirin right away, and you may actually save their lives. So got lots of questions on my heart health post. The number one reason, as a synopsis, that people will leave this earth is not cancer. It is actually heart disease. Most people die worldwide from heart disease, and there are at-risk groups. How do you prevent heart disease? Low salt diet. Number one, even be aware. 2, exercise. If you have high blood pressure, you really should be exercising, because we know that exercise lowers your blood pressure. And the other benefit is exercise increases your HDL, that good cholesterol you need, and decreases your bad cholesterol. So exercise, and X was on earlier, you do a lot of exercise. Exercise really does help, not just with getting the weight off, but for heart health. The heart is a muscle. It is about the size of a fist. That's how big your heart usually is. It gets bigger if you have to push against pressure and you get an enlarged floppy heart. So heart disease, I'm focusing on cholesterol. Here's the quiz. Total cholesterol should be less than 200. We want that. Hi, Elder Cheryl Mercer. We want that to be about 170. Your total cholesterol, less than 170. Your good cholesterol, which protects the heart, the HDL, we want that to be greater than 60. So we're going to aim for 70. Your bad cholesterol, we want that to be less than 100. So we're going to aim for about 75. And then there's something called triglycerides, which are the little fat molecules that run around in the blood. We getting too deep on Facebook Live. You want that to be less than 130, 120, whatever. But exercise increases HDL, decreases LDL. And think about it. LDL, you want to be low. That's bad cholesterol. HDL, you want to be high. That's good cholesterol. And then your total cholesterol is your total number. Blood pressure, less than 120/80. Exercise, stress reduction. Also making sure that you get adequate sleep. I'm the biggest hypocrite on that there is. But that you get adequate sleep and rest. And don't let anybody stress you out. I mean, I'm stressed out a little bit now because I'm probably getting ready to miss this flight, even though I'm in Uber.